Okay, everyone, I'm about to start the webinar.
Okay, we're live on Facebook.
Good morning and welcome to Caribbean Tourism Fireworks. My name is Vanessa Ledesma, Acting CEO and Director General for the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association. Thank you so much for joining us today as we share with you the results from CHTA's Industry Performance and Outlook Issues Survey, as well as other insights from our data partners. I'm joined today by our President, Nicola Madden-Gregg, as well as the chair of our advocacy committee, Clifton Reeder, and they'll go through the specifics that we will be sharing with you shortly. Just as a reference and a background, these are the items that we will be covering during our presentation this morning: World Travel and Tourism Council's Caribbean Economic Impact Report and Growth Forecast, air travel bookings and outlook for the region provided by CHTA's data partner Forward Keys, 2022 May hotel performance data from CHTA strategic partner SDR, consumer spending from MasterCard Advisors, CHTA strategic partner, and then the industry performance outlook and issues survey results. For reference, this session is being recorded. If you are joining us on Zoom, we invite your questions on the Q&A box. And if you're joining us on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us today. And you're welcome to post comments and questions on Facebook. This will be relayed with the panelists during the day. And if for some reason we are unable to respond to your query, we'll make sure that we'll get back to you after that. With that little bit of a background, I'm going to introduce our president, Nicola Madden-Gregg. Nicola, thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, everyone. Really happy to be here this morning as we focus on Caribbean tourism, not only in terms of our performance in the last year, but what is the outlook going into summer and Q3 and Q4. We are really very excited to see that Caribbean tourism is recovering much faster than had been anticipated originally. And we are seeing that we are one of the second fastest recovering globally. We are still behind our 2019 peak year by some 36.1%. But in terms of our contribution to GDP for 2021, we are up 36.6% over 2020. We have managed to recover over 311,000 jobs in that period. And that is really a testament to how fast Caribbean tourism has been able to come back into play. Of course, we have to continue to look at the global outlook in terms of our growth over the next 10 years. And the WTCC is forecasting a 2 times growth over what we had seen in 2019. So that's exceptionally good news. However, there are headwinds that we have to consider, and these are some things we here at CHTA have been advocating for and really want us all as Caribbean nationals and the wider tourism community to focus on. We have our challenges in terms of air connectivity, we have issues in terms of digitization, and through that, we need to continue to look at our infrastructure and human capital development. We have to continue to pay attention to crisis, not only this pandemic, but we have to be ready to be able to deal with any future shocks, not just in terms of responding to them, but anticipating them and being able to put in place all the mitigation measures from early on. What we have found through our experience with this pandemic is, of course, collaboration and partnership has been essential. Working with both government agencies and other agencies such as CARFA, CTO, IATO, we have been able to respond in a really strong and positive way as a region and ensure that we save not only lives, but livelihoods. As we go forward, we have to consider, if you go to the next slide for me, Vanessa, just what has happened. As I said, we have been recovering, but we're not yet at our 2019 levels. We are seeing that, in terms of our contribution to GDP, we've moved up to 9.1% or in the region of $39.3 billion US. So that's a positive change. We continue to see that we are almost back to full employment level at 2.35 million versus the 2.75 million that we had in 2019. But of course, we have to continue to look at our visitor expenditure, which is still, behind our 2019 levels. And we are hoping that in 2022, as things begin to change, we will see that bump up significantly. On the domestic side, we are seeing almost a full return to 2019 levels, and that's very good news. So the WTCC is predicting travel and tourism GDP is forecasted to grow at an average of 5.5% annually. So that is meaning that there is a lot of opportunity and pent-up demand for the Caribbean tourism to take advantage of. We are definitely in the position to do so. And 2022, while we did have a January and February that was not strong because of the Omicron variant, we are seeing that from March into June, we have seen really strong demand for Caribbean travel. And what are we looking at for the summer? Summer is actually going to be nice and sunny. We are seeing robust demand for the Caribbean. And as we have from our partner Forward Keys, you are seeing that we're actually, for the June to August period, ahead in the Caribbean of our 2019 airline arrivals in terms of what is forecasted and on the books by upwards of 2%. This is significant news for us in the Caribbean, and we have the airlift. Our airline partners have been returning to most destinations, some not as much as others, but we think with the news that we are seeing, and as travel restrictions continue to be lifted, of course, we've seen where the US has recently removed the testing requirements to go back to the US, and Canada is coming closely behind to do so. And that is going to make travels for summer even more attractive, particularly for the family market, which is one of our major markets for summer, just from a cost of travel point of view, as well as, of course, groups and other markets that are more price sensitive. So we are very excited to report that summer is going to be robust, and we are seeing it when we speak to our hotel association and we speak to our members, they are seeing the demand and they are responding as well. Of course, we look again based on this data, which is also provided by Forward Keys. You are seeing that summer into fall versus the pre-pandemic, we are looking at 6% up, as well as for fall, which is even more phenomenal based on business on the books now, we are at 18% pacing ahead of 2019. And this was reported as of the 7th of June. So again, we are seeing great indicators that we are going to have a very good summer and a very good fall. And of course, with that traction, we expect that winter 2023, 2022, 2023 will also be strong. So ladies and gentlemen, good news for the Caribbean. One of the things, as I said, we have in terms of our headwinds, of course, is the price of air. And we are seeing that the airlift is up in terms, air prices, sorry, is up over what we saw in 2019, 2020, 2021. And that is, of course, being impacted by the fuel crisis that we're all experiencing. So that's something we're going to have to watch. Right now, it is not tampering demand. People are still booking and coming, but we have to look at that to see if that's going to give us any challenges in the future. Of course, we have to pay attention to the ongoing conflict with the Russia-Ukraine situation, as well as inflation and how that might impact demand. But currently, as we see from the previous slide that was presented, fall is looking very strong, summer is looking very strong. So we are in a good place. We just have to continue to promote and ensure that the Caribbean is top of mind for all our major source markets. When we look at this slide, which is presented from STR, which is our strategic partner, and STR collects this data from hotels throughout the region. It's a great program to be involved in because it really gives us tremendous insight in terms of what is happening on the ground in terms of occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR. So if any of our members have not yet participated in this program, this is something that we encourage you to pay attention to and participate in. But while we see that for May, this is a report of May, our occupancies was below 2019, not significantly, about a 10% point behind. We are seeing that ADR is up as well as RevPAR slightly up. While this is good news, at the same time, we are being faced by increased operation costs. And so we have to take that with a grain of salt. On one hand, yes, revenue is improving, but on the other hand, so are costs. And so we are seeing where our members and of course the entire Caribbean is digging itself out of 2 years with little or no revenue. But at the end of the day, the good news is that we are seeing increases on the revenue side, which is critical to any survival that we need to have and our recovery. So that is really good news for all of us, that we are going in the right direction and the consumers are willing to pay a little bit more to enjoy the Caribbean, which is one of, if not the best destination in the world. Of course, we move on to our survey because we wanted to see exactly what was happening with our memberships. And this survey was conducted between the 20th to the 30th of May. It involved 122 Caribbean-related businesses across our region, and it has broad geographic representation, included accommodations at 62%, attractions 4%, as well as ground transportation operators at 7%. And we really wanted to get kind of a good feel of what has guided our recovery efforts with the training that we have done, the advocacy, all of the support that we have given our Caribbean businesses. How have they really been performing in a real sense? And look at the cost of doing business and labor-related issues, and how has the major reduction in intra-Caribbean travel impacted their business. As you know, we reported earlier on that we lost somewhere in the region of $1 billion from reduced travel within the region. So while we're looking externally for international travelers and seeing that we are recovering there, we're still very concerned that interregional travel is not where it needs to be. And there are some very specific things that we have advocated for and will continue to advocate to get us back to 2019 levels and grow beyond that. To take us through the results of the survey, I'm going to ask Clifton Reeder, our chair of our advocacy committee, to just walk us through some of these results. And at the end, we'll kind of go through the key takeaways from all this data that we have provided for you this morning, and then open up for some questions as well. Clifton, over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, everyone. Well, I'll start with the difficult task of employment. We're reporting from the survey that 7 in 10 of our participants in the survey basically saying that they will return to employment levels of 2029. We all know the challenges we're having with the cruise ships and other land-based operators taking our workers at higher salaries and everything. But I'm glad to say that several countries have put in training systems, and they're looking at how to retain their workers to maintain quality in the industry as we move along. A similar 67% expect revenue to meet or exceed 2019 levels. And that's very good because we've been in a period of cost containment for the last 2.5 years. So it's good to see that level of expectation in terms of revenues. In terms of pricing, 58% of our participants are saying that they will need to increase prices, and 24% are looking at holding prices. This will be challenging because, of course, with the increased airfare, what we are seeing is that a lot of people are keeping their budget, their vacation budget the same, but they're downgrading some of the accommodations and other costs. They may go on fewer tours, but they're traveling nonetheless. Looking at the next slide, we look at 47% of businesses continue to invest. And this is a very interesting slide because during the pandemic, I know that we've had stimulus packages from various governments throughout the Caribbean, and that allowed, as well as private personal investment and other soft loans, to see 47% of businesses continue to invest in capital investments. This refreshed the product, and of course, the demand that we're having now, I mean, some of the work that was done could not have been done during occupancy. So that was, and I think continue to be, wise decisions by owners so that when it's low occupancies, they invest for the future. We're looking at 60% of our participants saying that they will continue with their budget as far as capital expenditure is concerned. And 22% are returning to the same levels budgeted in 2019. So that's encouraging news indeed. This slide also shows the continued movement towards higher room occupancy. Rates are going up, ADR, RevPAR, but again, we have to be very cautious with these because we also notice that the length of stay is also increasing as well. And we need to also look at our visiting friends and relatives segment within the Caribbean because they are pushing up the length of stay as well, having not returned to the Caribbean in 2.5 years. And looking at the next slide, we are facing the headwinds and we have great optimism. In fact, 9 out of 10 businesses rate the Caribbean tourism economy as strong or extremely strong, and 93% having positive outlook for their destination. And to me, that is even more encouraging because of what we went through and the fact that we were not expected to be at the level of recovery that we are now, but in a way we have to make it sustainable. And that is why we have to have cautious optimism. The war in Ukraine, apart from supply chain disruptions, 91% expect higher cost as a result. But there are some other hidden things that we have to look out for with the war in Ukraine, because of course, the shipment, especially coming from China, we have a lot of electronics that comes from China, and it's really disrupting our systems because things that we used to get in 3 months, they are now taking up to 6 months, some up to 9 months, and that will affect the operation of our tourism plans. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to make sure that our recovery is sustained, that whatever we do, we have to be cautious going forward, especially after September, to ensure that we're not just moving in a direction of borrowed demand, as somebody mentioned, because other countries are coming on stream and will shift the demand that we have right now. Thank you much.
Thank you, Clifton. And we're just going to highlight a few of the items specifically in 3 areas. As it relates to business operating costs, on the section in the survey, we listed 12 items, including operations, utilities, and marketing, to measure how business costs have changed. And across the board, the results reflect the looming challenge facing the industry as operating costs escalate in every major line item, with cost of labor, energy, and food and beverage supplies seeing the highest increases. With digitization becoming an integral part of many operational aspects of the business and servicing of consumers, and one of the pillars of CHTA strategic activities via our technology task force, the survey inquired about digital-related challenges with bandwidth reliability and adequacy of bandwidth level providing significant challenges to operations. From a labor-related issues, here you can see the challenges the industry is facing with labor shortages, which is not specific to the Caribbean, it's impacting globally, and the cost of labor, which on average represents about 45% of a hotel's operating cost. We're seeing shortages at a line and supervisory management levels, and 69% cite restrictive policies on hiring, scheduling, and wage and benefit requirements as a challenge. Intra-Caribbean travel. The results underscore CHTA's prioritization and boosting intra-regional travel as we have opportunity to grow the business. The results highlight the motivations for travel, the obstacles, and the untapped promotional opportunities which exist to stimulate more intra-regional travel, not only from visitors, but residents alike. Now that we've gone through the specifics of the results, I'm going to ask Nicola to share with you key takeaways.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Clifton. So as I said earlier, Caribbean recovery is looking good, but we do have some challenges, and these challenges have to be met with very, very strategic approaches, partnership and collaboration, which has been a hallmark of how we have been able to manage through the pandemic, but also not only to look at the challenges, but the opportunities that lie ahead. So we are resilient, we are recovering, we are seeing robust changes in terms of occupancies, in terms of revenue, ADR, as well as RevPAR. We continue to have commitment by our members in terms of investing both in capital improvements, health and safety, and bringing their product up to international standards and even better. So we are definitely proud of our membership for that. As we said, profitability is threatened because of the ongoing conflicts, the supply chain issues that we have been having. And of course, we are now seeing issues with the grain prices and how that is affecting wheat. And we know we are hearing a lot in terms of prices of chicken and other things that are impacted by feed that is coming from the wheat increasing as well. So again, input costs is something that is very challenging right now for the industry. Airfares, we discussed the challenges of the labor market shortages continues to impact all of us, not only here in the Caribbean, but throughout the world. And that is something that is an opportunity, both in the short and the long term, where we have already engaged various government institutions and educational institutions to step up efforts to get persons trained at an earlier level and an introduction to tourism at an earlier level, so that we can also bring them in as interns and have them be able to move from an internship level into actual full employment. Of course, that gives us an opportunity to work with CHTA's Caribbean Job Bank We have an excellent platform where you can post jobs, because we are encouraging persons not only to look in their own destination, but throughout the region. As you know, CARICOM based, if you're at a tertiary level, that allows movement within the region. So there's opportunity from one destination to the other. So we may have oversupply in one destination in a certain aspect of tourism and undersupply in another destination. So we here at CHTA are really encouraging the use of the job bank for persons to both post jobs as well as for persons to seek job seekers and have that marriage there, and not just in your destination, but throughout the region. And that's something that we at CHTA are also doing. We are about to change the way we hire, and we'll be hiring more persons who are going to be working in the region. As we said, technology has changed the way we work. And so now we can have persons work remotely and at the same time provide support to the CHTA administrative office. Flexible hours is something that is critical. You may see persons looking to go back and hire persons who have already retired on, maybe part-time basis, working reduced hours. And that's something we have to consider, how to flex the work hours. Maybe not everyone wants to work a 6-day or a 5-day work week. And you may have someone who can work full-time at one job and still give you 20 hours working in the industry. So that is something we're encouraging our membership and everyone Caribbean-wide to explore. We mentioned the inter-Caribbean travel and our regional travel perspectives, and that is something that we really have to push forward. From a marketing point of view, definitely there's a lot of opportunities to promote a Caribbean rate. We have some destinations that have been doing that, but we are definitely calling on all destinations, all hotels, all attractions to implement a Caribbean rate to really encourage that travel within the region. Many destinations were able to push through the pandemic by the support of domestic travel, including, persons just rediscovering their own destination. And I think this is a ripe opportunity for Caribbean nationals to discover the Caribbean. And so we are definitely going to support that push. Also working with the regional airlines to see how we can reduce taxes, how we can ensure that the ticket prices are attractive and really stimulate travel within the Caribbean. Now, this is not only for travel for Caribbean nationals, of course, but this will allow opportunity for international travelers to enjoy multi-destinational travel as well. And so we are going to be supporting the multi-services air agreement from a CHTA perspective and seeing how we can implement with that what the CARICOM is pushing forward to ensure that we move forward in a very strategic way to really shore up and grow Caribbean travel beyond 2019, which was a record year. We're seeing a lot of new openings. There's more investment coming into Caribbean, more hotel rooms are coming. And so we have to ensure that we grow our stopover arrivals, not just where we were in 2019, but going forward. And that is very critical that we grow it in a sustainable way. We mentioned the issue of digitization and ensuring that we have adequate bandwidth and reliability of bandwidth across the Caribbean is very important. We have our tourism task force that is technology focused. We recently signed a MOU with the Hospitality Finance and Trade and Technology, which HFTP, and we will be attending their conference next week to really get a wider perspective on what travel and tourism and technology and the ability and the availability of new software and hardware for our industry. And of course, we at CHTA will share that with the wider membership. And we ask those who have not yet gotten involved with HFTP, it's an opportunity for you to do so now. As we go forward, we look at sustainability. Last week, Vanessa and I were at the WTCC Sustainability Summit in Puerto Rico, and we are very excited to have reported that we launched with the Nature Conservancy our guidelines for the preservation and restoration of coral in the Caribbean. This is critical to our sustainable growth. We must focus on the natural environment and ensuring that we are doing all we can do to preserve and keeping track with our commitment to the Glasgow protocols. And that is something through our Caribbean Alliance for Sustainable Tourism CAS that they will be working on to have a position paper as to what we will focus on here within the Caribbean. And that is critical, as I said, to our growth, not just in terms of in the immediate, but in the future. And we have to focus on a wholesome approach to Caribbean tourism. We must continue to work with our partners, and we have had very good strategic partners over the years. And we just want to thank them again for their collaboration as we move forward. Caribbean tourism is ripe to continue to grow. There is a lot of interest in from an investment point of view, but also from a demand point of view. People love the Caribbean. We offer the most wonderful products, and we have the most wonderful people. So definitely we at CHTA look at this as an opportunity to continue to work together strategically to push Caribbean tourism forward and to continue our growth path and our recovery in a very sustainable way as we move forward into 2022 and beyond. But so I think we can close at this moment and take some questions.
Definitely. And while we get some questions from the audience that is joining us on Zoom, if you are joining us from Facebook, we invite your questions, comments on the chat, and they will be relayed with the panelists here. I would just want to take this opportunity to share with our members that detailed reports from what we've shared today, including this presentation, are available in our members only site. And with that, you'll have access to the full data set from Forward Keys with air travel bookings and outlook for the region as of June, consumer spending and booking patterns from our strategic partner MasterCard, and tourism insights with data specific to Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico. And even if you are not based, if your property is not based in one of those destinations, it is great insight for you to use from a benchmarking perspective to give you insights from what the consumer that visits from our various markets is looking in those destinations. It's also a great resource for our allied members to have an understanding of what's happening at those destinations. Of course, the presentation that we have just concluded and a 2022 tourism outlook for the Caribbean, a presentation that was done last week at our CHTA Live Forging Ahead series from MasterCard and Mabia. While we get some questions, Nicola, you referenced that last week we were in Puerto Rico at the WTTC Sustainability and Finance Summit. And of course, they released the numbers, their economic impact report from the Caribbean, highlighted various opportunities. Are there any other highlights that we did not cover within the presentation today that you would like to share with our membership and stakeholders?
Well, I think one of the things that generally, it wasn't maybe specific to the WTC Caribbean highlight, but something that we need to highlight is the opportunities that we have as a region in terms of looking at our linkages. You know, agriculture, manufacturing, or creative industries. That is an area that I think we need to also focus on. We are talking about supply chain issues, and obviously that's going to continue for a while, but it's an opportunity for small and medium-sized entities to be able to see what they can continue to supply to the industry, both in their destination and across the region, as well as larger manufacturers who may also be able to be a little bit more region-centric and region-focused to ensure that tourism continues to have a proper supply chain. So I would also encourage our members to look at our allied members who are already in the system and see how you can maybe look at supply chain issues with them and see how you can get supply from the region as well. We continue to work with other partners to look at agriculture and encouraging, of course, you know, gastronomy, and through our Taste of the Caribbean and other competitions, we promote our Caribbean cuisine. And so at this time, again, it's an opportunity to really see how we can utilize, you know, our various agricultural products within the industry to showcase what we have. And we are seeing that consumer demand is looking for that localization experience. They want to experience more and more of our local culture, the taste, the flavors of the Caribbean. And so we need to weave that into how we grow as a region. Specifically, I probably would also want to mention in terms of the WTCC, one of the, if you go back maybe to the first slides as we talk through it, Vanessa, they can get an idea of what we're talking about. They looked at the opportunities, again, for creating a very sustainable product. And that's something we need to focus on, as I said, looking at the opportunities that we have to link other industries and tourism so that we can continue to grow in a sustainable way. So we talked about at that conference, the coral reef. We talked about, preserving our forests and our tropical rainforests. So it's a holistic approach to Caribbean tourism that not only must we do that, but we must also focus on community tourism, which is also something, as I said, persons want to go out since the pandemic, they want to be in open spaces. And so even if you're staying in an all-inclusive hotel, having tours that do farm to table experiences, that, have hiking, going up into the mountains, doing yoga retreats, all of these things are diversification that we continue to see within the Caribbean tourism product. More and more of our members are diversifying and are partnering with local communities to really showcase other aspects of Caribbean travel beyond sun, sea, and sand. And that's what our consumers are looking for. Everyone wants to have that kind of a Zen experience, and you can have that whether it's on property or combined with an off-property experience. So I think that's an important thing that we should bring out to share with everyone this morning.
Thank you. Clifton, last week you joined us at the CHTA Live Forging Ahead series with MasterCard, where they shared some additional insights in terms of the outlook from a spend perspective, what people are looking for. Nicola made reference of course, the diversity, the ability of, going outside. People are being a little bit more open and looking for those additional experience, with active lifestyle being something as well that they're into it. From a operating perspective, where you sit today at your property in Jamaica, are there any insights that you would like to highlight to your fellow colleagues, that opportunities that they would have available and they should not miss?
Well, one thing that we're realizing now, especially for the medium to larger properties, people are spending longer, the stay is longer, and they want to go on tours. So like in Ocho Rios, we have most of our attractions are within 10 minutes of the resort, and the guests just love that. And especially if you're all inclusive, you want them to go out on tours and whatever, so you encourage it. And the tour companies, they're getting more professional now, and we are seeing a lot of different type of tours. And that's why what Nicola mentioned a while ago about our protection of the environment is very important, because people are getting away from going to the waterfalls and the traditional kind of tours, and they want to be the wanderlust tourist and get into the mountains and hike and go bird watching and stuff like that. So some of the non-traditional tours we're finding out have increased in sales by over 20%. But just going back to, again, what was mentioned before, a little bit of the linkages, because not only are people now demanding, and we're getting a lot of our returning residents coming back, not only in Jamaica, but throughout the Caribbean. And they're longing for the taste of yesteryear. Mm-hmm. And that's why the gastronomy part of things must be developed and must be sustained. We're in the middle of the hurricane season now, and we have to look at technology in farming so that we can sustain our deliveries to the hotels, because we know that we have mango seasons, or certain vegetables and stuff like that. But greenhouse technology has been around for a long time. And I know we can mitigate some of the natural disasters and droughts and water shortages in some areas by just having some kind of technology injected in farming, and as a result, delivering to the hotels. But all in all, I say that the visitors coming, they're enjoying themselves. They've been locked up for 2.5 years, and they're looking for new opportunities, and most importantly, new tastes.
Well, before we move off of that point though, Clifton, in terms of, I think the Caribbean has shown that it is absolutely resilient when it comes to bouncing back through any sort of natural crisis, or as you said, we're in the hurricane season, but we have been phenomenal in turning that around. And as you know, usually when we have season, if we do have a storm pass through it, it may affect one or two of our destinations, but you can still travel to the Caribbean because it's a wide space and various islands. So we just want to be clear to anybody listening that, hurricane season doesn't mean no travel season. It's actually one of the most traveled seasons. And we have learned how to really work our show, so to speak, and recover quickly. And that has been through training and development and responsiveness, that both in terms of the government as well as the private sector. And I wanted to point out, as we talked about the small and medium-sized tourism entities, just wanted to mention, since we have no questions as yet, that in July, we'll be having, in association with the OAS, a high-level forum to present findings on the small and medium-sized tourism enterprises. And that's July 20th to 22nd, where we will be showcasing some of the strategies and potential growth paths and tools that SSMTEs can use to continue to be a part of the tourism product. And that's very important. Sometimes the focus is on the large players, and really there is a lot of small and medium-sized tourism players that really make up our tourism product in the Caribbean. And that diversity, we are excited to continue to share. There are persons who, during the pandemic, the villa and apartment market, just blossomed. People really took off. And that diversity of choice in terms of where you want to stay, the kind of activities you want to do, is something that we're really very excited to continue to see grow here in the Caribbean. So it gives travelers lots and lots of options to experience the Caribbean in many, many different ways.
And to the point of spending, it reminds me on one of the data sets from Forward Keys that indicates that people are booking premium cabins when they are traveling, and they've seen that cost increase around 30% over 2019 levels. So they're definitely, spending on themselves. Again, they've been cooked up for some time. We do have a question. Any concerns about inflation and the impact on travel and cost of doing business?
Definitely, we have to watch that. Inflation will sometimes dampen, spend, but currently we are not seeing any immediate impact. It's something we have to watch as a trend and see how we can respond as a region. So at present, no immediate impact. We are not, based on the projections we have seen from the data that has been provided by Forward Keys and as well as MasterCard, especially the Forward Keys data and STR, we are seeing that fall is already pacing ahead of 2019. So it doesn't seem to be an immediate impact. Maybe it's something we have to focus on going into 2023, but we're hoping by then the markets internationally, the economies will settle somewhat, and maybe we'll be out of the crisis that's been brought on by the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And I think those things will push back down, hopefully, prices in terms of fuel and everything else. So at this time, we are watching it, but we're not seeing any immediate impact. Obviously, there is a cost implication for input, and that is something we mentioned earlier.
Clifton?
Well, the survey supported that in that quite a few of our partners are actually not gonna consider price increase. And there's a redistribution as well of how people spend their vacation dollars. As I mentioned before, if there's inflation in the airfare because of fuel cost and everything else, they tend to look at other accommodations or other attractions that they can go to. And what some properties are doing, they're actually making themselves one-stop destinations. So they're including more tours, they're having more attractions on the properties, and it's ranging now from small to large properties. So I believe that you also have new visitors to the Caribbean because the inelastic set, where the inflation, even though it's not showing up now, doesn't mean a lot to some of the travelers coming to the Caribbean because they've saved up the money or they have the money and they will travel irrespective of the cost, some of them.
Perfect. Nicola, has there been any progress addressing intra-Caribbean air transportation options?
We are in dialogue. That's something we mentioned earlier. So we are working with our partners. We had last month a forum where we discussed the challenges. We had Caribbean Airlines, Inter-Caribbean, and some other partners on. It's an ongoing process. We do believe that we will see some positive traction in that regards because it is something that we are seriously working on and pushing forward.
Perfect. And in looking at incorporating other activities within the offer that it's being extended to the travelers, how do you ensure the pie is spread with making hotels one-stop destinations?
Well, Clifton, yes, you do have some that are making them one-stop destinations, yes. But I think the consumer is also looking, as I said before, to experience things outside of the hotels. And even if you have the option, I think people will still take the other option on top of it. And we are obviously, as the various tourism boards across the region are promoting the wider experience outside of the hotel experience. So I don't think we'll lose that. And there is a set of consumers that are definitely looking for that experience. And we are more and more reaching out to those persons. So I think you'll just see all boats float, so to speak. I don't think it's one against the other, but it's given, as I said, a wider consumer base and new consumers and all the opportunities, all the options that they would want to have. And I just think that we continue to diversify our product. We continue to listen to the market, listen to what our consumers are saying, what are the changes they'd like to see. And that's something we share with our members and ensure that they're aware. Can't emphasize anymore our data center and the kind of data that's in there. That MasterCard survey really gets into the spend, where people are spending the money, what types of things they're interested in. And that is something that's essential for decision making. So I do believe that while you do have an opportunity as a hotel to maybe pick up some additional revenue, especially if you're having higher costs by offering more options on property, that doesn't mitigate or stop or prevent the other consumer who's going to come and stay in a villa or an apartment and go out and experience the wider product, as well as those who will say, I'm going to still do what's on property, but I still want to do 2 or 3 tours, and I want to go and experience this, the farm to table experience, hiking, downhill bicycle tours, going into a community and having a real community experience. So I just want to say that the table is broad enough for everybody to eat off of it, in essence. We definitely are seeing a new set of consumers coming into the Caribbean, and we don't want to lose them. People that maybe only used to think of the Caribbean as all-inclusive or just sun, sea, and sand, we're going beyond that. We have gone beyond that, and we definitely continue to push the envelope, just really asking you to discover more of what the Caribbean has to offer. And each destination is unique in its own way. I always say that one of my bucket list things to do is visit every single destination in the Caribbean. I'm halfway there. And people say, why? It's all the same. And no, it's absolutely not all the same. Every destination, while it does have a lot that is the same, yes, we all have beautiful beaches and many have beautiful mountains and scenery and natural beauty, but the culture is different. The music sometimes is different. The experience is different. The feel, the look, it's different. And as a Caribbean person, I can tell you, I've been around, and you really should try the multi-destination experience. If you've been to the Caribbean once, that's not enough. You really have to hit the wider Caribbean. And when you go on 10 destinations, then you can come back and talk to me to say that you've truly experienced the Caribbean.
Definitely. And we have more knowledgeable travelers and they really have the desire to explore. So we have to take advantage of the diversity of the region, particularly because
Languages,
everything,
so much.
food, culture, because it's going to
Everything.
set us apart when other major destinations and other competitor regions open up. One last question before we wrap up. And Nicola, you can take it and I can chip in. How is the momentum building for Caribbean Travel Marketplace?
Oh, excellent. We really are excited. As I said, Vanessa and I were in Puerto Rico last week. There's a lot of really unique things we want to do this year. Obviously, from a CHTA perspective, we are targeting new buyers. We want to bring a different feel, a different vibe to Marketplace this year. We are already seeing traction. We have quite a few buyers that have already registered and suppliers very early. We are putting in new things in terms of destination pavilions, so showcasing more of the Caribbean experience. Puerto Rico is very excited. They have a lot in store for us. We're doing, for the first time, a really significant MICE program, bringing in meeting planners, as well as a wedding hosted buyers program, wedding planners. So there are elements that we're adding. We are also looking to have a forum on the first day, which is the first time ever. We'll be doing a business forum right before Marketplace. And there's just a lot that we're packing into this year's Marketplace. It's our 40th anniversary of Marketplace and the 60th anniversary of CHTA. We'll be really bringing a lot to the table this year. So I would encourage everybody not to miss it. It's going to be very special. And as I said, we will be bringing new buyers from various regions to the table. We budgeted for it. We have an active solicitation campaign going on. If there are buyers out there who have never sold the Caribbean before, or maybe only sell 1 or 2 destinations, have never been to Marketplace, tour operators, please feel free to call Vanessa. She'll give you all the details at the end. Media who may be on the line, if you've never been to Marketplace, we have a very robust media program as well. And that gives you an opportunity to discover Puerto Rico, but also to speak with the other destinations and get detail on what's happening across the wider Caribbean. So a lot. We're very excited for this year's Marketplace. Vanessa, you want to add anything?
I will just add that Caribbean Travel Marketplace remains the largest gathering of the Caribbean hospitality industry, and it will be the first one in 2.5 years. We have representation from 19 markets from a tour operator perspective, and so far 22 Caribbean member destinations are represented. If you have not signed up, you must do so very, very quickly. Just for reference, the early bird savings for our suppliers have been extended to July 1st. So we really want you to register early. Make sure that you hold your display and your participation at Caribbean Travel Marketplace. And with that, because we've pretty much reached the allotted time for our discussion, I would just want to remind our members and those that are in the audience that these are the data and reports that we have in our members only section, and all of the details will be on our website, and we'll distribute them by email as well. And again, a quick shout out to our strategic partners for their continued support in all of the activities, initiatives, and resources that we bring to our members, but industry stakeholders. Nicola and Clifton, thank you so much for joining us this morning. To the media that is in attendance and to those that followed us on Facebook today, thank you so much. Please keep in touch. Make sure that you follow CHTA in our various social media channels and visit our website, CaribbeanHotelAndTourism.com, for additional details. With that, I thank everyone and wish everyone a great day. Thank you.
Thank you much.
See you soon.